Seems so peaceful and nice here. Seems like all of the troubles of life, and I can't really see much. This torch is kind of going flat. But I'm down here in the creek, giving the dogs a run. I have better light here. Always have 2 torches. Does that help you see? Right, so there's some dogs here. This is deliberately messy video as well. It's not intended to be some super shiny, well edited documentary. Instead, it's real. So here in this lovely creek, the creek's all damaged from a flood that occurred nearly 2 years ago. And so we get these trees lying down, and then there's all these roots here that had a structure, and then these trees are horizontal. And it's only with the recent rain, nearly 2 years later, that has carried all the leaf litter down here to start filling in these gaps just about 3 weeks ago. So nothing lives here, but this is the kind of environment that these dogs are bred to work in. Generally, environment much colder, and with things that bite back. Anyway, I've got plenty of videos up on YouTube about how to stimulate your earth dogs if you live in the city. Stop them going crazy, make them a much better dog for you. This is about Nobbs Suzuki Praxis, documenting Metamorphosis. What's the date today? I think it's 26th day of November, I think. It's Monday. Full moon in Gemini. Doesn't really feel like a full moon, can't see the moon at all. Last night felt like a full moon, and a really sublime one. Not really like one I ever experienced before. And so it's interesting for me because I'm a Gemini, born under quite a strong, intense Mercury retrograde in June, under a full moon. So the moon's in Sagittarius, so I got all this Gemini air sign stuff, this duality. So I sort of see myself these days as like a double air sign. As far as noticing things in the world, being observant to the world and people, contemplating all kinds of stuff. So it's like I don't really try to work that much out in my life. You know, sometimes I sit trying to work things out, but it's just a general thing. Like that's what my thing is that I observe, I evaluate, I integrate, digest the information, knowledge, and then move on to the next. That's where the flair of life is. The mystery of the moment holds the key for me. And I think that actually keeps me interested and keeps me animated in life, so that there's signals going throughout my body to keep my heart beating and keep my body going. And so there's a big thing about just coming up the last week or so, having to write a biography, rewrite biography, which I couldn't write to start with, and then I wrote something a few months ago and then had to rewrite it. And I learned all kinds of stuff. But you got like so much aspects of self. What are the results now? So for me, there's a lot of stuff that came up being the results that are in my mind. You know, I might allow myself to go and fantasize about different things that are are just a waste of energy, and they're only serving me to bring me to my senses to realize how ridiculous I am. But then when I come back to it, when I finally go through my process, then I'll come to a point and I'll remember who I am, and I remember, like, I just have this very clear thing in my mind, in my heart, my entire being, and I say it out there to the sky and the universe. So I look at that and I'm feeling this reflection of myself, and no, I actually don't feel that way. I don't think that. I don't want to be that person. I'm not that person. And when some thoughts come up, I'm horrified. And I'm stunned how they had so much power to come up. Even just now, you know, I'm here meditating, having this moment of peace here, and then some of these thoughts that can occur in this beautiful place where I'm in a really peaceful state. Under the full moon, I always consciously get out and be like, under the full moon. Yeah, I feel them. It's big for me. It just keeps you connected to the living universe from which you were born. So anyway, I basically, you're staying only in Brisbane. I'm staying in Brisbane on Sundays. Otherwise, I would leave and go somewhere right next to the ocean and try and cultivate some massage and acupuncture healing practice there, at least a few days a week. So Monday, Tuesday. So I would not linger in Brisbane on Sunday when it's really hot. I would go down and be at the beach. So I got this Nobbs Suzuki Praxis training that came up in my life at 7 p.m. on Sunday evening, just when I got to a point where I finally have this ability to go and try and make something happen somewhere else, which would be, I'd go Saturday probably. So anyway, it's something that keeps me in Brisbane. Then I ended up being late, you know, like right on time, like early. And it's like a few things happened, but it's the energy that was there and the sensitivity and the feeling. And so basically I just decided that I wasn't going to have the dogs with me because it's getting a bit hot. So that'd be fine, but I thought I would just lock the dogs inside my bus and then go to training. And then normally I give them a walk there, which is a good place for them to go for a walk. It's just like, yeah, so you've got to leave the windows down. So they jump out the windows and then come in, interrupt the training, or they're out and about and like hunting in the bushes and stuff, but they'll go across roads and stuff and they're barking. And you just can't have it. You just can't have that. And so I've been doing quite a bit of training with them. I thought it was good to bring them to that point where, yes, I can do this, even though it had been happening a bit lately, you know, but that's all part of it. But anyway, they're telepathic, so they could feel what was going on. And they could feel what I was about to do and where I was about to go. And we have this routine thing, so we've been doing this every Sunday for the last 2 months or more. 10 weeks, I think, now. So in my effort to exclude the dogs, I ended up being late. And the first time I was late was the second session that I was going to attend as a participant. And then I was going to be 5 minutes late. So I didn't go because training had started. And I'm not going to walk in after the fact. Yeah, but I come from a very strict, hard background, martial arts training and meditation training. You know, there's all this etiquette that's never spoken, but you kind of work out what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And when you're amongst it for a few times, you might be late all the time. But then when you start to align with these people, these groups, cultures, and whatever, the subgroups of humanity, then you come into alignment and you tend to not be late, you tend to be in the right place at the right time, and then you start to see where one can be out of accordance. So John said, no, just come. And then he said afterwards, no, maybe, yeah, you'll be right. If it's more than 15 minutes or so, then, yeah, don't come. No, because then you're not part of it. You know, you haven't started with it. So, and that just shows you just such a great personality to be learning from. So anyway, and I ended up, I was going to be late, but obviously, of course, after my last time of not going in the second week, then I was like very clear, well, I'm going. Must go. This is the most important thing in the week. And so I get there and I was 20 minutes late. And there was someone else there I hadn't seen before. I'm not sure if she's new. She seemed like she was doing some more advanced techniques, so she must be exposed to something. So anyway, I went in, and it's interesting to see like the kind of stresses that load up into consciousness for the periods of time preceding full moons and preceding other astrological coincidences, and preceding all these other coincidental things that happen in life that we are prepared for because of what life has made us have to deal with. And, you know, like, you know, we learn these lessons, we integrate the lesson, we get the point from it, we go through it, and we come to a point where we've got a somewhat removed, detached, simple acceptance. Or we're not so emotionally volatile and out of control, or we've got some perspective of ourselves that we did not have before, that we were blind to. And so all of this kind of stuff happened, you know, it's very full on for me. Like, there's a lot of good stuff happening that I've been trying to work out for a long time. So I'm flashing the camera around everywhere. This torch is not very bright now. It's going flat. So I get my auxiliary torch out. Now I can see that there's a large spider web that I would be disrupting and causing that bloke or that lady to have to work all night. And I wouldn't like to do that for no reason. So it's interesting to observe the stress that I was under, or that I was just living with. And just interesting to observe that there were certain changes in me, because that all that stress was the same, but something was different. And then having some great conversations and some great connections, and, you know, having faith in humanity and life and the world and all of that. And I spoke to Mercadan Monday before last, and then I had this fantastic session with Francis, who's a mentor, friend, and he channels Mercadan. And so I spoke to Mercadan, and then I spoke to Francis, and he got something across to me finally. And this is the thing, you know, like, Francis is the only person that can get this kind of stuff across to me. Anytime that I've been having issues in my life since I've known him, I remember the first time that I engaged him as a professional counsellor, because I've met him and did a Mercadan session. I had no idea what I was turning up to, so that was an interesting experience. It's like, imagine talking to God for an hour. Will answer any question you have, but cannot interrupt with free will. So that gives you that answer, lifetime worth of wisdom and knowledge in every question that's answered. But then if you say something else, then that can't interrupt the free will. So we'll follow with that, because you are God. You're worth being heard. You're like, whatever you say is worth being heard, and whatever you inquire is worth inquiring. So Mercadone's generally a lot better to talk to than Francis, because Francis is a human being, you see. He's got all these human qualities, and like, he's one of the best humans out there. He's certainly a master in a number of different fields. But yeah, for having a conversation to try and to seek counsel, then Mercadone is much easier to talk to. You don't need to say that much, you see. He already knows. So Francis has been the third person to try and address something out of the leadership triad in this men's circle. And I think that there was something that was lost in translation for the first two Scandinavians that were trying to get something across. But it became totally apparent. Like, I was trying to work out, like, what is going on here? Do these guys think that I'm got some paradigm that I'm not the person responsible for my creation in life and my experience? Do they think I'm blaming other people or something like this? What are they saying to me? Like, what is this? And I think there's a bit of that, and then there's a bit lost in translation. So anyway, it was enough. Then they sent me some material. I covered it all, and then I come back and go, yeah, so what are you suggesting that I'm saying that I'm not responsible for my experience, and my creation, and my attitude, and my life, and the circumstances having in my life? I mean, if there's anything that I ever say about that kind of stuff, then I take responsibility for myself and the other person and everyone else that could possibly be involved. And Mercadone taught me that back in 2012, and suddenly things got better. You know why? Because there's nothing to fight about. Except with your family, because then your family have got this program running that they can't, or whatever's going on, but it must be something like my friend explained it. He said, you're number 8 out of 9 children. So it doesn't matter what you say to them now in an adult, and you want to address this kind of stuff that goes back to that time, then they just have to treat you as that program running back there. So they just think that you're the youngest child trying to get attention. So I go on this whole thing about going, look, guys, I'm at peace with everything that has been anything in the past with us. Then I'm at peace with it, and the way he's acted and the things he did, and now I do see the funny side of these running jokes and stuff. And even in that case, that was not accepted at all, because each one was saying that I'm just trying to seek attention. I'm like, what would your attention do for me? So I don't understand that stuff. I don't understand it. But that's the only place ever in my life since 2012 that I have not just had a complete transformation of whatever is going on in that moment, by taking responsibility for yourself and the other person and their experience, and how they could possibly have come to that idea that you might have been capable of thinking that thought and having that intention and about to do that stuff. All of that. But yeah, families, in the first world in Australia, like we're so isolated from each other. But anyway, all of that kind of stuff is there in the background. And Francis keeps insisting that I've got a problem with all this kind of stuff. Like, my brother's not talking to me. And my life has just suddenly stopped having all this disharmony in it when my brother stopped talking to me. He's holding the grudge, and I don't have a clue what it is. I've disengaged. I made it all about me and took full responsibility and go, right now, so I've done it. I'm totally done with this. So now I'm letting it go. And if you want to make any more of this, then it's all about you. It's not about me. So I feel like a great peace. I did see that my brother wrote back something. I didn't read it. I just said something in the first line saying, see, you just can't stop. You still want to have a fight. And I just deleted the whole conversation. I didn't open and read it. So I don't know. But anyway, Francis is suggesting that this kind of stuff is there in the background. Totally my creation. That is in my internal being as a wizard. And then I've gone and created it in the external world. So this is what happens, you know. We get these external reflections of the internal conflict. So I really don't see anything with that. I mean, like, I've put up with so much shit from my brother, and then I've never held a grudge with him, but he's the one who holds a grudge with me. So he's not going to have to talk to me again for what? There's only a couple of things I can think of what he might have initially got upset about. And both of them were to do with my children, and what he was, what the example was that he was being to my children, and then not talking about it. And so there's a big thing about me, like, well, we have to talk about stuff. You know, we're not going to pretend it didn't happen and just go on, because there's this emotional tension and heaviness there. I'm not having that. So I had to talk about it in the family chat, or either that or his sense of humour was shown to be inappropriate by himself. And that's it. So those kinds of things sit there in the background. We all have this kind of stuff, you know. There's someone who thinks this or thought this, and they did this, and they carry all this energy. I thought they were really close to me, or we were really close, and suddenly they're acting really hostile, as like they don't know who I am, or they never knew who I was, and it's like I don't know who they are now. And so we just deal with that. And to tell you the truth, I mean, it's not that much. Like when a friend does that, and they come in all different shapes and forms, don't they, friends? Then that affects me more than what I do with my brother. You know, like this is kind of the bull being so stubborn that he's going to go through the other gate into the paddock with no water and no trees, and he's going to stay there. Just because that's what he did, so that's what he's going to do. That's all there is to it. He meant to do it, obviously. And if you try and have a conversation with him, or you try and open the gate, you try and give him some water or something, and he'll try and gore you with both horns in the side of your ribs. So, obviously that's what he wants to do. He had the capability to go and do that, to go and put himself there. But, you know, like sitting with the idea that Francis is really insisting is that it's still something there in me. One, it's my creation. Two, whether I realize it or not, or whether I believe it or not, whether I think about it or not, whether I even have any thoughts about it or not, it's still affecting my life and my creation and my being and my karma and all of that kind of stuff. So, okay. Well, let's have a look at that. But we don't need to then go into what it is with my brother. It's then it's the same principle for everything. Or rather, if it's not the same principle for everything, it is the same principle for everything basically when you get into it. Like that's what all the mysticism is. But I just had a way of saying it. I forgot the way that I was going to say it, which had that power. I don't have these words now, bugger. It's the same principle for everything. Or if it's not, then it's enough to give you a container to be able to apply it to everything. That's the point where I'm leading in from talking about Francis Evans and Mercadam, and basically speaking vocabulary of certain words about certain things in a certain way that I got it. So one thing with Mercadam was saying, if you're full of all this stress and worry and desire to make more money and all the pensiveness and fear and urgency, then there's no room for the way to come into your field and into your field of influence. And they said a few things about this. He kept saying the way. I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. And then he said something. You need to give way to the way. So then the way can give rise to filling your field of influence, your field of experience, your field of reference. And I got that. Oh, hang on a minute. Tao. I just recently read the Tao Te Ching again after 20 years, and there's a lot of stuff in it that I understood deeper, and I was amazed that I forgot. And then there was other things that had been something that I had not got in the past. I'm like, what is that? What was that? Well, there's two sentences. What was that supposed to mean? But I got it all. Oh, wow. So it was there. I got something. But then Francis, a week and a half later, as a human being, on this particular day used particular vocabulary. And this is the great thing with Francis. He'll say things to you 31 times in all 31 different ways if he needs to over a 2.5 hour phone conversation. And you'll get it. So the first time I ever engaged him, he was in England. I made an international phone call. It cost me more for the international phone call than it did for the consultation price with him. Spent 2.5 hours on the phone. I've been to see all kinds of other therapists, and they go on with all of their, this is their dogma and all this stuff. Stamp it in, stamp. And no one was coming close to what my issues were. But Francis sorted it out. He got me to be able to see, and yeah, so this is what I do this for people. So then when I have a conundrum in myself, then there's really not many people other than Francis or this psychic like Ron O'Donnell that have ever been able to help me or offer anything that has actually been something that's been a treasure. So it's extremely esoteric, I suppose. But it's just practical common sense, practical metaphysics. It's amazing I've been able to talk for half an hour because I felt like I had nothing to say, but I needed to get something out, and I'll use this contrast of how quiet it is here. And life's stresses seem so ridiculous from this point of view. And that was the thing of thinking, well, maybe I'll pull the phone out and do this here. But I haven't even gone into what I was going to talk about. But what I think I've gotten across now is that there's a lot of stuff that's shifted just recently that I finally got some understanding of. And so, so now I can put myself to task in being more aware of these things, or starting to hone in on these things, trying to work with that, become more sensitive to it, accept myself, stop beating myself up, be gentle with myself, and come to peace with what I see in the world and what I perceive my experience to have been, and to perceive the circumstance to have been. And then got some very, very powerful metaphysical lessons that I knew, but I kind of knew probably 80%, and then was still giving this credence. So basically, what's going on out there in the world, whatever's going on, whether it's good or bad or dramatic or tumultuous, whatever, if you don't know about it, then it's completely irrelevant to you as far as your frame of reference is concerned. And it doesn't become relevant to you until you know about it. And this is the thing, that we're all in this together and we're all so connected, but we're so disconnected, we're so ignorant to the fact that we're disconnected, and we've forgotten that we forgot. And if you don't know that you don't know, how do you don't know? How do you not know that you don't know? And if you've got no memory of not remembering and having forgotten, then how are you supposed to know that you have no memory of something you don't remember forgetting? So Mercadan was really all about that, and go, like, you've got it all in you, like, let go. Your task now is to take stock of everything of where you are. You've achieved a lot. So, you know now, like, you're in the same situation or worse situation than what you were at points that you can reflect back to, but now you're living a completely different existence. And you still got the same problems. So otherwise it'd always be this thing of, when I get the money or when I solve this problem, then I'll be happy. And that doesn't work that way. You can't do that. It doesn't work that way. So I was always stuck in that. But there's all these lessons, and not really, like, there's this practical application for me because of who I am. But I don't really find too many other people. I'm in this compassionate leadership training men's circle, and it's like most of the guys speak in this kind of vocabulary and terminology. But you can't be speaking someone else's vocabulary and terminology. You got to be speaking it from within, because you know it. You see it. It is it. And so Francis had one of those particularly good sessions or flow states the other day. And I had a notepad and pen that I'd written down a couple of questions that I was going to ask him, and then ask Lasser, the leader of that circle, because he's the first one pointing. He was pointing about chaos, you see. But then I had the conversation with Francis, and that was sort of short term. It was like, hey, I can talk now if you want. We can fit this in if you want to do it now. And all right, let's talk now. So I got straight into it. And he'd obviously been talking to him, and that was so he brought up a few things, but I had some questions. There was questions I was going to ask Lassen. Then I asked them all to Francis. And I was going to ask Francis most of those questions himself anyway. And it turns out that yes. So these questions were like, so I get told these things by people. So is it like, what's going on here? Is there something that people think that I'm blaming others for how I feel and how my experience is, or how I think, or what happened in my life? He said, yes. I'm like, what? Even still, at this point in my life, people that know me this much time, they think that. And he goes, yes, that's how you seem to be. And then you're teaching this stuff. I'm like, what? But no, I'm not teaching. Like, when I'm teaching, I'm teaching. But when I'm not teaching, I'm not teaching. does it seem like I'm teaching? Like I'm trying to preach something? Yes, you are. And then, does it seem like I'm denying when something is offered to me as a support or guidance, or check this out, or have a look at this, because you've got this issue to look at, then does it seem like I'm denying that there is something in me that needs to change as the center of my universe and center of my reality? My reference point to the world is through these eyes, what I see out, and what I and so is it seeming like I've got some paradigm running, or lack of consciousness, that I don't think that I am the center of my universe and the creator of my reality and perception and experience and attitude and all of that? Yes. I'm like, well, who the fuck do you think you interacted with? Like, what is this? But I wasn't like that. See, I've been like that for months and months. Well, what the fuck is going on here? Or years and years I've been. And I've been, that's why I'm not with the mother of my kids, because she's saying shit. So I sat down. I'm like, what are you doing in a relationship with me if you think I'm that kind of person? And that was it. That was the night that we broke up. I remember walking to my car after that 2.5 hour conversation that night and just going, well, that's it. There's nothing more that can be done. There's nothing more that can be done. And well, there was opportunities to come later. So this is the thing in life, there's always opportunities. And so that was an opportunity because she recorded that conversation and she was listening to it one time, not that long later, but I realized after that she had changed state and there was an opportunity we could have probably got back together in that moment. But because I just spoke the truth, I've just accepted that that's who you are, that's what you're going to do now. I don't have an emotion about it, but I'm going, well, that's what you're going to do, so I can weather it. But that was enough to close her pain body back into itself. And yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that animates us. It's the kind of stuff that drives us. It's the kind of stuff that we are thinking about all the time, particularly now because we're really in this coincidental astrological sort of circumstance. The placements, like we're looking at shadow side. There's stuff that happened in Israel. That happened on the day of, was over a 3-day period, but I got warned by my astrology friend 5 days before that happened. Gave me very clear dates. So going to the Monday. But it was actually the Friday to the Monday, but it happened on the day. Like right smack bang, How long does it take for Mars to make a square angle with Pluto? Elliptical orbits, a very long way away from each other. But then that occurred at that time as whatever that horrible stuff was that happened in Israel. See, I don't know. And this is the point. Because I come to this myself. I don't know. I'm not going to go find out what happened. It's the same thing. I've listened to some very interesting talks. Dr. Gabor Mate was one. Russell Brand has been really talking about some interesting stuff. I never really listened to anything here but he's he must be a really mercurial person like me. I love the way he asked the question. He asked like a dozen questions in one. And uses all these words that you have to go, I need to have a dictionary sitting next to me if I talk to Russell Brand. But I really like that, I really like that approach. He's good, like whatever he's been doing, to the point to get him up to here, he's really good. But that's as far as you go, like you think about what is it that makes us human beings? What is it that drives us? What is it that we're thinking when we wake up in the morning or wake up anytime? What is it that we're thinking when we're driving along? What is it that we're thinking when we're sitting in the traffic light? What is it when we're thinking when we're alone? What is it when we're thinking when we're going to sleep? How do we feel? Do we know how we feel? And are we watching our thoughts? And then how are we treating other people? And you get a pretty good gauge of these kind of things based on your physiological responses and your mental perceptions, the cognitive, mental processes that are evaluating something that's being prioritized to the mind in that momentary perception over the top of something else. This is more important than that. And then we might get a look at ourselves and go, oh, that was more important than this, but now it's the opposite. When did that happen? Why do I think that? All these different kinds of things. So there's all kinds of realms of humanity, the human experience that occurs in the human mind and within the human being. So we are all going through these processes and having a look at ourselves and choosing who we're going to be and who we're not going to be, and creating ourselves so that we either become someone who is capable of just killing another person, or killing multiple people, or going and doing some heinous I don't know what does heinous mean. You know what? Can you get to a point of killing a person? See, most people that killed people, they didn't mean to kill them. They just did that in the moment. They didn't think they were going to kill them. Ironically, I think that's a more dangerous human being. But I think the penalty is quite often less than the premeditated murder. I mean, I would probably prefer to say, yes, I'm a psychotic psychopath that thought about it, planned it out, and did it. I knew what I was doing. So I might be a psychopath, yes, but I knew what I was doing. I went there, and I did it. So I'm not pretending that I'm a nice person. And then suddenly, now this is how a lot of people get fucked over financially. Alan Watts said it, and I only listened to it a couple of months ago, and that really helped me with my money issues. You see, I've got these money issues kind of thing, and shocked by the world and humanity here in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia, first world, very flourishing, comfortable city with money everywhere. There's so much money, but man, I have never known such poverty could exist in this society, in this culture. I didn't know that this society could let people slip through the cracks the way they let me slip through the cracks. But that was all me, that was all my creation. And so I brought that up because it's something I'm carrying, you see. I'm carrying something with that still. I really need to make money. And just pay out debt. And it's not really that much money. I used to deal with a lot more money than this, but this is $50,000 that is like owing 4 different people money, real money that was just responsibilities that I couldn't pay because things happened. Fires can burn really quietly, and they can burn everything away in 10 minutes. And they can come into your property from somewhere else, and you can suddenly be fucked. So I feel like I've come to a point of great peace, understanding, acceptance. You know, like I'm still burdened. I've got the same problems, but I'm still burdened with. But I'm not burdened. But I have been burdened. I've been very burdened for a very long time. And this can be a thing when the student is ready, the master will appear. And there's no doubt about it. This bloke appeared. Who the fuck is this guy? What the fuck? And I had absolutely no idea about what I was about to get into. So what I've been talking about up to this point is all about the texture and the intensity of the experience that is our experience. And I think I went off on this tangent because of coming to realize this thing about the bio of giving everything to every moment of life. And if anyone is actually watching this and listening, can you ask yourself this question now, and can you be honest with yourself? Do you give everything to every moment of your life? Or are you kind of sitting on the sideline, or not even on the sideline? Are you not really engaging? Because I found, like, I'm a pretty intense person. I'm really out there engaging. And yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that just showing me I wasn't really living. And the problem is, like, these are lessons you got to get, and you're probably not going to get these lessons if you've got money. So you got to come for the money. But how much spiritual growth you have, and especially here in Brisbane, everyone's getting so soft. First world. I haven't been overseas, so I don't know what it's like over there, but God, Australians have become so soft and sissies. And you know, if they're going to be soft like that, then they're going to have a soft cock when they try to have a good, firm, hard erection lingam and satisfy a woman or man who they want satisfied. Then they're going to have a good, hard, firm erection. If you're soft like this, then you're not going to have a good, hard, firm erection. So that's something that I had been feeling good about. Feeling really good about going into the training on Sunday. And I felt like I was in this particularly good stead. Like this monumentally, exponentially, wondrously divine blessing, good stead. And then I've found myself in this different kind of state. I was somewhat hungover, but I hadn't been drinking. I was really hungover from life and working really hard in the heat and doing this really arduous task, helping someone do work that nobody else would be able to help her with. And I'm not doing it for money, so I had to stress because they asked me specifically to help on Saturday, Sunday, because they were going to not work. They were going to take work off so they could do it. And yeah, it just wasn't coming together. And so Sunday, I was like going to be there early. But my body was sore, and tight, and I needed to sleep in a bit. And then I had to meet someone, and lunchtime I was going to go. But then some random turned up, just like floated in, and kind of needed a bit of attention. It needed a bit of human connection. You never know what some people have been going through when they say a couple of things like that. Because you can't really talk. See, this is the thing. Like, this person, they come in and they say this, and they say that, and they say this, and they say this, and they say this, and they're all over the place. And then they say that they found a dead body 2.5 weeks ago. And then I'm like, oh shit. So anyway, I didn't really want that person to be hanging around there once I left. And they needed a ride anyway, so I was going to give them a ride. But I didn't really want them to be hanging around there. But that's not what made me late. Like, it all worked out. I ended up giving them a ride, and that all worked out. And it was actually really beautiful. I mentioned that to go, like, I didn't really want them hanging around there because that kind of, I could just tell, they might be, a certain kind of people might be inclined to observe certain things about, be opportunistic, and just don't need to have those observations, don't need to have that certain information, or where I'm a caretaker of other people's property. And that was an interesting thing because I do this drug rehab work and stuff, and I don't really ever think like that. So that was interesting to noticing myself. And anyway, we had a really good interaction, and it's actually, I see it so much in the lower levels of society where you think it's all the grunge and the drugs and the shadows and the darkness and the hatred and the spite and the malice and manipulation, exploitation. That's where you find some of the most beautiful human beings. And they've been tested as well, you see. And so this person actually had a look in their eye. I could tell they were high but they had a clear look in their eye. They had something, so I had time to give them. But I ended up being late. I suppose, like you could say, because I tried to put the dogs in the bus and then leave them there and come back and get them, and they weren't having that. That's really the reason why. And my God, they was nowhere in hell were they being left out. No way. And fair enough, because they're telepathic, so they feel it through their entire being, not just your mind, they feel the entire being. And that's what I'm getting at with John. And so then the moon was up there, and it was, like, I can't even feel it really now. But yeah, like just before I walked the train, I looked at the moon, whoa! I thought the day before, like it doesn't look like it's going to be full. Looks like it's not going to be full for another 3 or 4 days, and it's supposed to be full tonight, Monday, 8:10 p.m. But that was like 7:18 p.m. I was looking at it. Up in the sky, I was like, whoa. And so that was pretty whack. I was like, whoa. That was having this effect. And it's just all that in-between worlds. And mystery in the moment holds the key. Paradox gives you the containment so that you can have a look at something, so that you can start to engage in something, bring something into creation, manifestation, and polarity. Once you polarize, then you're one way, and then you've got the other way to be as a duality. And then magnetism comes into play. So there's all of that. I just realized I didn't finish tying in the Francis story. So I told you what Mercadancer gave me, this thing of going, you've got to cultivate this calmness. You've had a few inkling moments recently that you can refer to. And your question is, what thought did I think or did I not think to allow me to be in this state and to just be in that state for 3 days? And then lose it, or for a few hours and lose it. What thought did I think or what not think? And I said, like, I drive past the service station, see the price of petrol, and then I go into this state that affects my being, and I start feeling disempowered, I start feeling worried, I start feeling hopeless. There's no way I can possibly get the money. Just look at the cost of because I've been like this since 2017. Look, I've helped a lot of people in my life, in all kinds of different ways, and a lot of people with a lot of money. And some of those people have been fucked over. Some of those people, then, we're not friends anymore, but they pay me back, we're not friends anymore. So money is just this one thing. But there are a lot of people, like no one helped me, except for one person. Well, there's a couple, but all the people that didn't have the money, that couldn't help, they wanted to help, but they couldn't. All the people that could easily help, and some of them, they really should have. If you want to get into the word should, they should have. And they didn't, and they just, yeah. So it really shocked me. It stunned me. Some of these people credit the fact that they're still alive due to me. Otherwise they would have killed themselves. But then they got $260,000 sitting there, and they're just, anyway, so I'm not going into that, but all of that is loaded in the, you see, like, see? So I'm still carrying something, right? I'm still carrying something in me. So that's a big thing. That's loaded into consciousness. Something about my brother, loaded into consciousness. Something about the men's circle, loaded into consciousness. Something about this, something about that, something about this, something about my kids, something about my kids' mom. All of this stuff, so much stuff. And, it'd been like months of thinking like friends and trying to talk to friends to go like, what is going on here? Like, what are you saying to me? What do you think is going on? But I wasn't getting these clear answers. And I finally got these clear answers. So yeah, basically I'm perceived to be a really dysfunctional person. that makes excuses for himself, which that's a lie. You're lying to yourself and then trying to enlist other people in your lie if you make excuses. And I'm being told that that's what I'm doing, or that's what I'm perceived to be doing. And then I'm being told that I'm kind of asserting as though like there's nothing wrong with me or in my life, so there's nothing that needs to change, like everything's good. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, my life's fucked. Like, you put down on paper, that's fucked. That's why I'm doing this documenting metamorphosis training, because these are these acute changes in the initial formative weeks. Like, I don't even know what this stuff is. You get asked, you remember this? Like, how the hell am I supposed to remember that? Like, what are we doing? This paradoxical quantum physics performance training where you're making me be overloaded with all this stuff so that my ego has to check out and then my spirit just does. And you're asking me if I remember? Well, yeah, but no, I got no idea. John and Jackie are really amazing people. They're really, really quirky, amazing. A lot of information, a lot of knowledge. So we get to the point that I'm running late. I'm 20 minutes late. So I'm thinking I'll go in there and I'll put my socks on. I'll put my shorts on, put my socks on. But I'm not expecting to train at all. I'm going to go and just sit down. And I was actually, I felt my kind of, like I felt this hungover from last 42 years of my life. Ugh. You know, why do we do the things that we do? Why do we live the way that we live? Why do we care about the way we care? Like I'm here in this creek gully. It's going like, this is what started this video going. The stresses of life just seem so ridiculous from this perspective. So I made a conscious decision, like I realized, okay, I'm going to be late now. I made a conscious decision to chill the fuck out and not stress, not rush, not stress. And the dogs had plenty of exercise and stuff, you know, so I wouldn't feel bad about that. And I centered my entire existence around them. So anyway, when I got there, then parked, and the dogs, you have to stay here in the car, the windows down, but make sure you stay in the car, don't you dare jump out. And set them up with water and grabbed some water for myself and clothes and socks, and there's, I've got this, I got this, fuck up, I got this, and so I started to get this stress, you see. And rushing. I'd already parked the car. I just had to walk in there. I was like going slow. Like last week, we didn't start training till 7:16 p.m. So I'm walking in at 7:19 p.m. the following week, you see. But I'm still going, well, I'm not expecting to train. And just as a respect thing, but you know, it's most important to go and to be there. And you know, obviously, when you're watching, you're still learning so much. And there's this great, interesting neuroscience thing that when somebody is watching another person perform techniques or a practice, like a disciplined, well-developed practice, very skillfully, that same person has cultivated, then the same neurons fire throughout the person's body, not just in the brain, the corpus callosum, but actually goes throughout the entire body. So it's like, what's going on? It's like it's like the neurons are firing. Everyone's on straight. But you're just sitting there still. And so I really felt that. Well, all of this talk has been about to try and get this very sensitive, reflective, introspective point of view and state, and observing that, you know, there are some things on my mind. I was in a particular state, Even my friends say, you seem a bit somewhat subdued today. Is there something on your mind? And I'm like, yeah, no, because I told this the story what I'm telling here. And what you get from that with Francis is, this is what's perceived to be happening. I'm pretty clear that's not what's happening. But the delusion is that I'm not even seeing that's what's happening. And then there's all this other stuff, which I can't really go into explaining now. But basically, it's like most of the words that I say is a waste of time. People aren't interested in the complexities and the intricacies and the wonder of that, which is one of my big things that drives me, motivates. Oh, wow, look at that. How did that come about? So by the time I speak about something, oh, wow, how did that come about? I've already done 150 calculations. And I do find like I feel bad because I get quite agitated as some people, that they take your attention, they interrupt you doing something to go, oh, look at this, oh, that must have happened this way. And you have to stop and you think about it. No, that didn't happen that way. It happens this way. What the fuck, like, did you think before you open your mouth? Like, but you get like, I don't think that, but then they go and argue and stuff. They interrupt you, steal your time, argue and stuff. And you get to the point where they go, look, did you think before you spoke? That's really interesting because that's what was said to me by this Icelandic guy. And I think there's some things lost in translation, but there's one thing, I want you to think. Before you speak, I want you to think about whether you thought about it. What the fuck? I think about everything 4 times at least before I speak it. So, what's going on here? What I got from that is there's this who. He's going, who are you? And I answered all these different ways, but then it was what. He wanted me to say, I am love, as the who are you. And then Francis got across that you've got all this stuff going on, that people carry all this shit in their lives, and they're judgmental, or they can't trust anyone, because it always turns out that people are horrible underneath. Well, not all of them are, Some people don't have nasty thoughts. They choose not to. And they just don't want it. So, regardless, everyone's dealing with their own stuff, their shadow side, and their heaviness. There's a lot about this heaviness going on right now. And you either face yourself and you transform, or you don't. And you'll hold that state until you face yourself and transform. So I've been facing myself for so long now that I don't really notice the uncomfortableness at all, and haven't for a very, very long time. But I do notice that some people get very uncomfortable in my presence still when I'm facing myself about something. Because it just gives this simple contrast, and this is how things work in the universe, because that is there. So then in contrast, there's this, and it just shows something. You don't even need to think about a lot of this stuff, because you just know it from the millions of years of instinct that drives us as human beings. However, we are in a particular place of not knowing ourselves at all. And so with this week that I had between last training session and then this one last night, man, I really gave everything to every moment of life. I felt really good about it. And it really gave me this very clear thing about anger. Sometimes I yell, come on, get away, get away, get away. I'm not angry, it's just but I came to realize that I was very calm with it and accepting myself. I wasn't actually angry. I had come to a certain peace, and there was these reflections because Francis is all about what are the results? Where are the results to show it? Because it doesn't matter what you think or say or feel, whatever, it shows in the results in the practical application, the practical manifestation of creation, life. But I'm never saying that I've come to this stuff, except for I come to this point realizing when doing this bio, writing that and experience before that, I actually have a very clear, simple intention and resonance and feeling for the world and mankind and anyone and everything. And it's love and acceptance and compassion. And I know that because I always come back to that. And I get this perspective of the thoughts I've been in, the journey I've been on, these thoughts I've cast out. And I'm genuinely horrified at myself. I'm genuinely disturbed at myself that it was able to be there in me at such a deep, intense, powerful level of original creation, original content creator, the original artist. We don't have a clue. So then all this stuff is very consciously and deliberately loaded into consciousness every day upon waking. And now they've got this Nobbs Suzuki Praxis. Then it's totally loaded into the consciousness. And the program, that's the program running. This is what we're looking at. This is how we're doing it. And then that's for every day. But then it becomes this thing for the training. That's what we're doing. We're loading that into, well, for me anyway, that's what I'm doing. Totally loading that into consciousness. So that's what happened. So you get all this stuff that we're dealing with in life, right? We're dealing with this stuff in life. And everyone's getting up and going to work, and they're paying for their petrol at the service station, and they're getting a cup of coffee, and they're waiting in line at places, and they're waiting and holding doors for strangers, and they're preemptively giving way and making room for people to be able to pull out on the road, and all of this stuff going on. And then they got their own personal lives. They're going home to their families and dinner and all the stress of life and all these different facets of life. But they've got this same stuff going on, which is like prophecy, biblical kind of stuff of this is the time now you're going to have to look at yourself. But it's like, is it even being recognized or perceived for most of the people out there? But it's going on. It's in them. You're looking at your shadow side. And that doesn't necessarily have to be anything about darkness and malice and bitterness and hatred and everything, but it can be simply what is not seen. And so when we have all this stuff with Francis, then I'm in this delusion. There's all these elements, there's all these different facets of delusion coming from all these different ways. And so it's just like, if you can't see something, this is the experience that people have of you. This is the perception that they have of you. This is what they think of you and feel about you when they're having a cup of coffee and you walk down and you get a cup of coffee. And you keep going. Then those two people, then they have this experience of the things that they're saying about you, kind of stuff. This is not what it said. I'm just putting it in the context. Like, then that is something that holds this energy, and it's something that's a result. And it's kind of irrelevant to me. I stopped caring about what people think a long time ago. But then you notice that you do care about what people think. And then there's this people that are close to us, that like, or they might not be close, but you know sometimes you get, oh, you almost throw yourself across the room because they think about considering maybe doing something. And you don't know this person, but for some reason you really care about them. You really care about them being happy. You really care about them being comfortable. You really care about them being safe. And that's it. So as soon as it comes down to this thing, like there must be perception of a number of people that think like I'm just leading myself blindly around by the nose and reacting to everything and blaming everyone else for it. Just being a complete fucking twat. Ongoing, that's how I am. So I'm like, why do they then have me in their life? And there's something about what I was just saying, that point there, what Francis was saying, something about that point there, where I bring something that people just love me, and they feel loved, and they feel accepted, and they feel like I lead into these ways and I break the ice, or I break something open and I lead in with an authenticity and a vulnerability. And so they really love that. So that's what he said. But then there's this other thing about I'm not authentic because I'm lying to myself, right? So I'm in delusion, lying to myself. And let's just say that I'm not seeing that people think that I'm selfish and unaware and ignorant and hypocrite, or trying to teach and just so vacuously disconnected from my own self. If I can't see that, then I'm not seeing what's real. That's what people think about me. So if I'm not seeing that, I'm not seeing what's real, so that's a delusion. And then I'm trying to share that delusion with everyone else and enlist everyone else in the delusion, because I don't realize that everyone's thinking that I'm going to say something nasty, and I'm going to be nasty, and I've got this nasty, exploitative, manipulative, nefarious demeanor underneath. I don't think that people get around thinking that way. So that's a delusion, you see. So that's something like whenever Francis gives me an exercise, I'll do whatever he says. So he gives me an exercise, and I really do jump into it. I give it everything. And so, I'll consider it, and that's all. And Mercadan will quite often say, thank you for your willingness to reconsider. And that's sometimes you get, sometimes you don't get good news when you're trying to work out why your life is just so tedious and for some reason having difficulty coming to terms with the life that you've created for yourself. So anyway, I'm talking a lot. We're trying to get across. And this is the thing, so what's the point of going into all these intricacies? Well, I'm making this for myself, actually, so that I can look at how I change. I'm deliberately this animated thing. So you don't realize that you're doing that. You don't realize it. See, I'm like, I've sort of become something like, and it's just some of the characters I've made, not just Bush Ranging, but I'm moving around. So now, like, doing something where you need to keep your head still doesn't seem like I've got very much awareness about myself at all, particularly when it comes to this stress. So Francis basically, there's a lot there, I can't really explain it all, but if I say 10 sentences to explain something as an answer to questions asked, then I'll try and say it in one sentence. And that's something that's thousands of years old. I think even Aristotle said it. Einstein said it. But I think even Aristotle said it. Like if you're a true master, then you'll be able to say something comprehensive and profound and deep very simply in just a few words, so that basically anyone can get it in layman's terms. And I think I did have that ability to do all that, but then I've kind of lost it because when children left my life, I was very empty and had to sort of go back to what it was that I had in my life before I had children, to give me some kind of zest and motivation and inspiration and drive and interest in being alive. And so this is the things of consciousness and science, understanding and really getting into this, the practical application of how the universe works, understanding and coming to peace with it. So it's consciousness, qigong, martial arts, acupuncture, science, inventing. But I never really did this playing performance kind of stuff. I was always scared of it, but I had something in me, but I was scared of it. So it's only now that I'm really getting to that. I'm 42, I think. Born in 1981. 2023 now, it's 42. So it comes to authenticity as a summary from the conversation with Francis of what to apply, because you can't. And so I've gone on digressing. What I was going to say, the reason I brought this up, because as I say, the sentence that Francis says, stop trying to work it out. It is not something that can be worked out because it's got nothing to do with the mind. Oh, right. So all this stuff, he's telling me that I've got all this stuff going on in my mind that I bring to every interaction. And what I got from it is I have that in a certain perspective, but it was pointed out in the delusion. So I'm a double delusion, basically, because I'm a Gemini. Geminis lie to themselves and to the rest of the world, and they'll lie to the aliens as well, to you know, like, just so everyone goes along with their delusion. But Sagittarius, well, they're lying to themselves about everything. So I'm like this double delusion air sign. It's all about information. It's all about the intricacies. It's all about, see, I don't know if you can see, it's a circular flow. Everything leads to something else, and it's beautiful and it's wondrous. I'm sorry I don't have the light capacity to sort of show you a bit more of a contrast of why that's relevant to me as a martial artist doing Tai Chi, Kung Fu, yin and yang, the hard and soft, the brother and sister, slow and the fast, gentle and hard. Essentially, you can't have any of them without having the other. And so then when you have these two different ones, then it kind of, by default, any other system that has any exposure to Tai Chi is going to engage that and draw it in and become soft and become more comprehensive, more at peace, more congruent. So there's a lot of this kind of terminology is what was the big things. Like there was a number of points that Francis said, and I got them and I couldn't write fast enough. And that was really good, you know, because I've been really looking at this for a long time. But it's like, stop trying to work it out. So it's like the lesson is to become aware of this principle that I've been basically living my life, and I have managed to apply it to a certain point. And now when I'm looking, like this is the kind of thing, like you just achieved something, you just completed something. So now you're going to have that completion point, and there's going to be a segue transition into the next thing. And so that was this focus on the next thing, obviously, because I'm already moving into. And see, the word obviously is only there because of the ideas that are preceding you coming to the point of saying the word obviously. So I've known that since 2012. And that's how I live my life, you know. Mercury taught it to me. I had a partner with mental illness that it took 3 years to break up out of a 4-year relationship. So I really learnt a lot and gained a lot. Had to go through a lot. So it was really interesting to see this kind of stuff coming up again, and these ideas, and then looking for the lesson. This is a delusion again. It's like, stop trying to work it out, stop seeking and looking at it and evaluating and all of that. What you got to do is get in this meditative state of being the opposite of that, or not the opposite of being not doing that, where the paradoxical, magnetic, the creation, the congruency can just be. And so I got this stuff from Mercury, but then Francis was saying that when you talk about this stuff, then you're trying to put this effort into creation. And you're thinking about it, especially for me, because I'm so mentally orientated, an air sign. I'm like a double air, double delusion. I'm just trying to put this bloody stuff in a particular spot in the carpet. It just... So see, my body's in pain. I'm going to move in a particular kind of way. It must have a particular look on my face. I know something. You know why? Because my fucking back is sore. Really sore. This is just how I've been living. Look at the look on my face. I'm worn out, ragged 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and I'm just... But I don't have this bitterness and resentment and all this emotion as far as I'm aware of. Or I am aware of, but nothing compared to what I used to. And then I get told that I have these attitudes that I'm projecting out into the world. I'm like, what? Like, I find that a bit tedious because instead of being able to address the problem and resolve it, because I want to resolve the problem, now I've got to deal with all this other stuff, which is not actually the problem, but it is the problem in the long run, because that's what you've got to deal with. So that's what I've been doing. I've really pushed myself ragged to be doing that in all ways, and helping some people that they really needed the help, and I could see that I could do it. And so I was quite warm. I didn't go and help my friend on Sunday, so I was feeling quite bad about that. I was feeling stressed and anxious about it. But I could just go, well, it is what it is. Come on, get up. And then, sort of just had this moment of just this stress, anxiety, and I had this coconut water in my hand, unopened, and just sort of rushing, like I'm literally, like that's where the door is there, and I'm literally I'm just striding on, but I just this stress rush, and then the carton of coconut water just drops on the ground, bang, splits, starts spilling from the top up, like it's sort of going against the laws of physics. Now this is chaos. So I had this chaos referred to me, and so I'm asking the question, what is chaos? Because is chaos lack of order, or is it the opposite of order, or what's the opposite of chaos? Is it calm? And I know, like, when you become angry, everything around you turns to chaos, and every single one of you out there would have an experience of knowing that. Like, when you become angry, then you notice everything turns to chaos. Then you hurt yourself. Then you went and bumped the table, but instead it broke your wrist, and then the table went rolling down the stairs, and then it crushed your grandma, and then there's no way of making that up because it went to chaos because you got angry. Well, that can be a similar kind of thing happen just out of the stress of rushing. There's urges, you just got a sense of urges, something that happen. Well, it's all about, you have to be here and do this, you have to act a certain way, you need to fit this way, you need to fit that. And most of it is really not relevant, but when you go and do, it's just like, that's what you just have to do, and there's this stress that I choose not to have, generally. But it does cause effects, and then I find, skin color. I find that I don't tell anyone that I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time anymore. I haven't for years. Because it's always late, and there's always something else happens, and I'm getting told that I don't have awareness of time. I'll tell you what, I'm very aware of the time passing while I'm on the other side of the city, not being able to do what I came here to do. Now I've got to deal with this, and I'm keeping people waiting, and it's affecting me professionally. I'm very aware of that time. So basically the same kind of thing. Then there's something there with that time. Come on, Moo, get up. Get in the car, quick. Moo, get in the car. Moo, come on. Get in the car, quickly. Why do you do that? So there's something very relevant with the time. Because it's all about time. And you're letting people steal your time. And then they're saying, we really need some intervention. You need to get your time sorted. Well, then we'll just go back to the absolute beginning of the beginning of the beginning. You know how we think that there's this starting point? to our thought processes or our perception or a concept, an idea. Well, there's a starting point to that, then there's a starting point to that, and starting point to that. So you break down the plans down to the most simple blueprints. Like the most simple. And there's Americans have been saying this to me for 20 years. Not so easy to get. But the lesson is when you achieve something and you come to the point, and this is something, if you've got martial arts or art or anything, then you might know many times, you once you get the lesson, then the lesson is to go back to the beginning. So that's what it is. It's all world delusion kind of related stuff. Go back to the beginning. Look deeper. Something you've just achieved quite well. There's a few other things that I haven't spoken about that I've achieved and I'm feeling really good about. So that was something I really want to talk about, the Nobbs Suzuki practice training, that there was some really amazing congruency coming into life. And it's happening in a spirit level, so you know how you feel. And yeah, I don't feel like I want to hurt people. I feel horrible, and I feel absolutely horrified at myself when I realized that I just had these thoughts, So I know how I feel. And when you get clear and you get real with yourself, then that's how you are in the world. So all the other irrelevant stuff that people say, all the stuff that is, I'm saying, is irrelevant. It's interesting. There are still people that you do care about. But the point is, with all that, while I'm going into all that, is whether you care about it or not, whether you think it's relevant or not, whether it affects you or not, doesn't matter, because it is actually there. It's something that's there to be evaluated, be processed, or be whatever it is, It's in the consciousness, it's in the experience. And this is what my whole life is, but I've never really been able to get close enough to have a decent, good look at it, get a decent, good grasp of it. Until 10 weeks ago, I started to do this Nobbs Suzuki Praxis training. And now I've spoken for so long about all this other stuff. So hopefully you get the point that is totally loaded with texture, contrast, intensity, flavor, nature. This had this nature, that had that nature. This was this level, this is that level. This affected this, that affected that. All of these different things in life that is the human experience that was there loaded into consciousness. And then there was something which I think ironically happened, like when I stopped and I looked at the moon, like, whoa. That kind of stuff going on, but very surreal. None of that, it was actually surreal. It was just peaceful, surreal. Like, wow. And so I allowed myself to just stop and look at it. I actually forced myself to stop and look at it and go, whoa, holy shit. And then I think I've got this rash, come on, like, it's just not good enough. And it's like, this is the only thing, like, anytime I ever tell someone, like, that I'm going to be somewhere at a certain time, then I'm totally ready to be there half an hour early, and then something happens, and suddenly I'm fucking late. So there's something there for me to work on, you see. So that manifested, that come out. And then I wasn't stressed. I kept it cool. Harmony. Like Jedi Master, it's good. Like Qui-Gon Jinn teaching Obi-Wan. This is how you do it. And then, just before I walked in there, so I'm carrying the stuff, and then it got stressed out, bro, dropped the bottle, like that just fell, it just, you could drop it another 150 times and you wouldn't break it that way, because it did not carry that energy. That energy has been in me this whole time. People feel it when you rock up to them sometimes as well. And so I wasn't feeling it, and then I suddenly feel it. And so it's interesting, like 5 minutes before the door, I suddenly had more stress, and then all this other stress come on, and I still wasn't very apparent on it, and I rushed in there. I thought it was just because of rushing, but it was like, no, you're carrying all of this stuff that's getting in the way of the Tao, of the way being able to manifest in your life and field of reference, and just provide you with everything you need. Because you find if you stop thinking about what you need and what you want, or you just have these sort of inclinations, you know, like you have these slight thought here, a slight feeling that, and then suddenly, bang, there it is for you. Oh. Yeah, well, apparently, like, that's how everything works, and we are experienced like 0.0000003% of that experience. So that's where we've got to work on. And the lesson is to go back to the beginning. Start again as though you don't know anything. But you need a practical application. So what I got from that then was that I was very much loaded in to the experience and engaged. And then I got asked to participate in a couple of exercises. And Jackie's just been so great with this communication and demonstration, all that. And so she was so perfect and impeccable with it. And then it just became so ultra strict. And yelling at me and coming and adjusting me. I've been working on my posture, my movement, all this stuff. And so she come and adjust me, suddenly I'm in terrible pain, realised how weak I am, how out of accord I am, how stiff and rigid, how much I'm compensating and forgetting that, just getting through life. My back's really sore right now. I'm driving and man. And I was working really hard suddenly. And man, coming out, and I noticed the look on my face, all the stress, all this stuff come out, just like that. Bang. It was incredible. And so, I did a couple of exercises, and then I did a couple of others where it came out after that. John was saying, like, we wouldn't normally do that, but Jackie really wanted to get something across to me. And so she went really full on. She's yelling at me. She's yelling the same thing to me 4 times. Yelling. And I'm either interpreting it one way. So then there was another way to interpret. That's why I yelled again. Or I just was not computing. And it's been a very long time since someone's barked a command at me and I don't do it instantly because I've got myself to that level. I haven't been training Kung Fu in the hall, and actually haven't really been training Kung Fu at all. Like, at all. Still doing some Qigong meditation. I'm still doing something, you know. I'm not feeling like I'm not doing my practice. I'm still doing something. But yeah, I haven't been training. But I still had this delusion that I had this particular flexibility and strength and awareness of my body and equilibrium and symmetry and all of this stuff that I was absolutely mortified. I was shocked to find out that I was not in control. I can't hold my head straight. They yelling at me, hold your head straight, head straight. And then the way that I hold my lower back must be some compensation thing I've done for having to drive. This car I'm driving now is too small. It's a great car, got a great price years ago, but the seats are small. And you get out of the car, it's so stiff. So it's the stiffness in the morning means like I'll have a cup of coffee before I go and start my practice. But you know, sometimes I'll be sitting there thinking I have a cup of coffee, but I have 3 cups of coffee. And then it's 9:30 in the morning, I'll be sitting there for 3.5 hours and I have not done any Qigong or Kung Fu or Tai Chi or yoga. I'll be sitting thinking about something, or where's my mind been? I'm very mentally active. But you got to do the Qigong, you got to do the physical practice. I've been doing it for 20 years. Why am I suddenly not feeling like doing it? Well, I forgot that I had desensitized and therefore wasn't able to remember, forgetting about the fact that I didn't realize anymore. I did realize back at the point, because I'm a massage therapist, so I fix my body, and there weren't any massage therapists around, and we keep living. And life just happens, and then we look in the mirror and go, oh, who's that? Or you go lift something up and go, oh man, I don't have that strength. Like, or you go and work hard in the heat of the sun in the day, like I've been doing today and the last few days, to help someone. And I notice, like, what drives me is not money. They wouldn't have enough money to pay me what I'm worth for doing that kind of stuff, but it's because I said I was going to do something, I engaged in it, and I'm in something. I've started an interaction, so that's what I'm doing. So that's what's most important. So there was a big thing on the Sunday about having not gone and done that, so I was feeling bad. So there's a certain stress and an anxiety, a certain pressure, and there's a few other ones like that, and then sort of rush and then have that, drop the drink, and now I'm making a mess. It's dripping. Oh, I'm late. I'm so sorry, I'm late. I just dropped this bottle, and it's leaking water all over the floor here and the carpet of this space that we've so graciously been allowed to use. Able to interrupt the training to just sort that out first. No, so I didn't do that, obviously, but that kind of stress is there, you know. And this is the delusion, because we don't realize that we're carrying all of that stress all the time. So I ended up having this stress loaded in consciousness for the week, which is also the breakthrough stuff, and that's what it's about. But then I had a few different layers of a few different types of stresses just really load on, like instantly, or before it happened, this quantum physics kind of thing, just before going into it. So it's really quite a magical, wondrous and masterful creation for me to create such a perfect scenario completely unintentionally, so that I get to have a look at myself. Because you see, like, if you get to talk to God, the challenges in your life are your challenges that you put in your life, and they're working for you to put you in a position where you can gain some perspective about yourself, realize what you're doing, and then you just start to hone in on when you're doing it, how you're doing it, and you might get a look at why you're doing it as well. And these are the points of power. But we don't really have much practice in our life, where I think that we probably would have naturally had a lot more of this kind of practice. And you know, you have a village raising a child, there's art and theatre and culture, performance, performing for other people, to entertain other people and with other people. You know, it's very much, it's intrinsic. It's very intrinsic. And then you have this thing about thou shalt not worship false idols. But why we have all these actors and musicians worshipped as the false idol kind of thing? Well, you can't deny these people have presence because they have focused and practiced and been it. They haven't just done that 10,000 hours to then be a master because they're so skillful at it. They have been it. They are being it. And they have been it for so long that it has become them. So I've done that in martial arts, in Tonglong, Tai Chi, Qigong, and then massage and acupuncture. And then I'm being like an activist, campaigner, and negotiator. Like I've done a lot of I've studied a lot of stuff, and I've done a lot of different things. Normally a really high level, specialist level, like one of the best people in Australia, but we're doing it to to make the community a better place, or to make sure things go well and there's no issues. So there's no money, you're not getting paid for it, and no one knows about it. But it's very few and far between. The people that have real presence and have a real embodiment of real presence and real integrity and beingness. And so we get this thing about less is more. So as a sentence, if I was saying in a meeting and go, who am I? Instead of me going, I'm blah, 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 or then go, I'm a man grieving for my children. Now that's a statement that was accurate 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And then I had Francis engage me because their mum went crazy. The way that they were taken from me, you know, it was a lie and manipulation, and I could see what's going on, but it's like, well, I have to choose to not take up this fight because the only two people that matter are my two children, and the only two people that can be hurt are my two children. So that was a tough call to make, but I mean, that wasn't a tough call. That was what to do. I mean, I was like, I'm not fighting over the children so the children get hurt, because that's not about the children. That's about me and my power. It's not about the children. So this is the kind of thing, like, see how you can get a look at yourself, and then if you can keep a perspective or keep a particular demeanor approach, then you can not be so sure about what it is that you see and knowing something about it. You can just keep observing it, and you might find that there's all this other breakdowns of simplicity that you might be able to find there too. My problem then is that I want to explain the intricacies as a sense of wonder and interest and zest and vibrance. That's what I want to explain, those intricacies to people. And I get to the end of a long explanation, and I'm like, oh, probably wasted my time with that because you're probably not really interested. And I find some people are, but they're more interested in, like, how the hell can I speak about so many different things and then tie it all together. I know I'm all over the place at the moment. I mean, I've been working really hard, pushing myself really hard, dealing, like, it's actually a lot of psychic work as much as the physical work, because dealing with this shit that other people can't deal with. You got to go into other people's shit and deal with their shit for them because they can't deal with their own shit. So it's pretty heavy. It's like it wears us, you know, wears us down. But I mean, I'm feeling good because I'm achieved, but I acknowledge that I'm all over the place. And so that's the thing, like, I try to be like that with everything I can be. I'm really shocked if I find that there's any part of my mind that has been running a program unconsciously that has not been aligned with the overall operating system. But most people, they don't realize that they're so out of control, and they don't know why they do most of the things that they do, or a lot of the things that they do, or some of the things that they do. And this is the thing, you know, this is the thing about delusion. And I've been playing with this last couple of years because people think that they know something. And like, I do this stuff with dogs, and then you turn up to a group scenario and there's all this ego tension, this kind of stuff. So the dogs are the focus, and then the dogs will do something, and then there inevitably will be someone will pipe up because they got this confidence, right? They spoke without thinking. Because they just know, it's just there. Or it's a condition they've known. It's like when dogs hump, they go, oh, they're randy, so that instantly means sex. Well, actually, it doesn't necessarily. Now, someone else will say, based on their experience, they go, oh no, they're trying to exert dominance over. See, he won't let her do that to him. And then, so you speak something like that, then they change positions. So you got 6 people are laughing, and the person who said it is kind of laughing, going, oh, look how I just spoke something, and I was proven wrong. I was proven wrong instantly. Because I didn't think before I spoke. Right, so we've got all of this stuff. Think about it. Get a look at it. And John is just incredibly good, and Jackie is as well, at leading you into a practice exercise where you are literally doing multiple different things, but with this particular finesse and gentleness and accuracy that you're compelling, and you're powerful and you're compelling. And I got this very fantastic coaching from Jackie, and she's a mystic, and it was crazy, like really incredible knowledge that she passed over to him. And even John said that, like, yeah, well, normally I would say just you sit out, but I'm glad you got to do that, because otherwise Jackie would not have had the opening to be able to teach that, and you actually really got something from it. So I got this perspective, like I was horrified of myself that I could be so unfit, so out of touch to what state I am in at any moment, and what my perceptions, my attitudes are, and how do I get to like that? What happened? What happened to me? It's like it's a question you can't even ask anymore, because it's just too out there, too askew. I'm too out there. But now I've started engaging and participating in this Nobbs Suzuki Praxis training, which is acting training. And whatever it is, when it comes to a certain point, then, and like for martial arts, for instance, like it comes to a certain point to be able to do a certain thing, or then have these other options. But when you're doing the performance, not actually trying to do that certain thing or explore those other options, because what you're doing is performance, and the audience has come to be entertained. So the first thing you do is you give the audience a job to do. You don't just let them be entertained, like we've come here to be entertained, so well, the audience here been entertained. No, you go over and say to the audience, you've got a job to do. Don't you dare slouch in your seat. No yawning. Don't you dare take your eyes off me. Don't you dare think about anything other than me. My job is to be compelling. Your job is to be compelled. And when you see how you load that in to consciousness before you even do anything, and then you start doing these really disciplined, very intricate, complex, but serious work. Like you've got to have a strong center in your body, dantian, hara, But it's different. That it's a different thing. It's center. Everything comes from center, and it's this fantastic representation that has managed to bridge the divide, like bridge the culture gaps and translation from the old days of Japan to now, the modern world, where everyone speaks English, everyone's got access to these supercomputers in their pockets. So there's all kinds of different acting that you can do. And I've been playing around with some interesting stuff, like I just doing my own stuff, just playing with it. And then I hadn't really thought about this kind of acting. So what we're doing is we're doing all kinds of really, I mean, this is psychology and it's quantum physics. It's fascinating, it's really interesting stuff. But we're loading up with a number of all engaging, consuming tasks that need to be all done at the same time without the audience getting a perception that it is all being done at the same time and that it's busy. You've just got to be compelling. But whatever it is, you bring the final point. Like I'm doing martial arts, so I go this angle, do this. So like where I'm leading to, and that's if my back's sore and I'm compensating, I'm out of whack, then I can still cut someone in half with a blunt sword effortlessly. But that's only going to a certain outcome. But when you go to performance, and like when you go to perform like in the auditoriums and amphitheaters in ancient Greece, oh, splendor of sunburst breaking forth this day, whereon I may lay my hands once more on Helen, my wife. And yet it is not so much as men think, for the woman's sake I came to Troy, but against a guest proved treacherous, who like a robber carried the woman from my house. That wasn't really anything like the representation of what I was trying to get across. You have the boom, you have to be this whole embodiment of something that we just don't see or ever be these days in life. But we would have been at one point in time, we would have been playing with this, you know. At the time when it took a village to raise a child, then we would have been doing this. So I only participated for a short period of time last night after loading in all the stresses and going in there, giving it absolutely everything, giving everything to life. And my God, I got some serious wisdom, serious gifts. I mean, this last week, I've got some very serious wisdom gifts. I've been trying to work some stuff out myself for a long time. And then you get these masters, they just say a few things or they just do things. But get your body adjust. I mean, like, I trained last night for a few minutes because you get changed, you get put into this position. And that's now where you need to finish, like, you got to do what you're doing. It's discipline. I'm terrible. I realise how out of whack my back is. I can't move. I'm in terrible pain. My face, oh, God. And then do a different exercise, and there was a new person in the class, and one of the oldest, well, he wasn't there, and so you really have to feel from the center to the other person's center. And I was quite stressed, and as I was, it's interesting to go, look how this just takes over when you're feeling good. But suddenly you can be stressed, and you can be this, and you can be that, and then you walk in, and then this happens, and you know that, and this is the thing, you know, like John was saying last night, you can go do all kinds of other practices, and they prepare you to do that practice, particularly if it's like a performance kind of thing. Then when you go to perform, for the championship or whatever, then it's not, you can't take all those skills generally for most other practices that are a big deal, that are worth the time and energy and all that kind of stuff. It's not really comprehensive to take it out to the rest of the universe, the rest of your life. But this practice is something that you may not ever use in acting or performance. That might not be a thing. I don't know what the other guys do. I don't know if they do anything like this. I know one of them is a dancer, a professional dancer, and he gave me some points. Man, he's such an incredible dancer. Oh my God, Jackie tried to get some. She demonstrated some stuff to me. She gave me the principle, and then she yelled at me and she corrected me, and oh my God, a lot of knowledge passed on. And then she demonstrated, and then in the next exercise, then Jaden and Alicia, they really demonstrated what Jackie was trying to get across to me and the reasons why it's so important. And I was mortified to realise that I had that incredibly strong, but in a different way to what these guys were demonstrating, which was amazing to see it be presented in a different way. Because they're not going to, they probably wouldn't be able to tear someone to pieces with their bare hands to protect the village or whatever. But when they were expressing a very powerful and profound connection. They were compelling. In the word, what you want the word compelling to be, that's what they were. It was amazing. So I got a lot. It was a shorter training session. I didn't participate in all of them because I didn't know half of them. They're incredibly complicated, incredibly sophisticated and advanced stuff that they must have been practicing and learning for years and years. They must have done this stuff that goes for 20 minutes each so many times because they know it all. Oh my God. So these guys, they're fantastic. They're so good. I mean, it's quite good to just sit down and watch it and go, wow. So today I had this plan to go and help my friend. I need to get this stuff done. Left this big mess, so I need to go there early before her business opens, and we can clean this all up like I will. So like 7 o'clock, and it's gonna be done by before the first client comes at 9:30. It's going to be sorted. And I woke up early and everything and get going for it, but body is so sore. And it's like, oh, it's supposed to be a day of rest, but it wasn't nothing. I noticed myself noticing that there was nothing about money being the motivation, getting up and going and doing this and changing plans of what I was going to do today to go and get this get this done because it's important to have answers. And I've gone and I've slogged it out and I worked really hard in the heat and pushing myself because it's like it's a thing like what I've got here and is, like, see how that stuff's stored there, and that could be used for building a tiny home or making a setup or something. But yeah, tiny home is the reason why I got it. But it's all in the place where you can find it's nice and neat and tidy. And so I just need to sort out all this kind of stuff. For some of the creativity has not been expressed, it's not been done because life gets in the way and we get overwhelmed with the busyness of life and the centrifugal forces of life. And I think that's so much the case that pretty much everybody should be doing a practice like this, where they get to create this containment, where you get to have a look at something, which is a paradox. It's the first universal law, number one, above all else, the law of paradox. It's not what you think, nor the opposite. And then you have polarity. And once polarized, then you're not the opposite of that polarized. You become what's polarized and you're not the opposite. So you got duality and all this stuff. And then you get the magnetism. This is some of the most powerful stuff to allow one to understand oneself and get a look at how one thinks and feels and acts, what one's intentions are, and all this kind of stuff. So I got a huge amount of feedback from that last night. And then I pushed myself. I've been pushing myself really hard. There's a hydration discipline. I can kind of handle going these long periods of time working in Brisbane because the heat could you're an invalid, you're decrepit, you can't do anything. So I've got this hydration discipline, but man, I overheat sometimes working really hard because you just go keep. It's like kung fu. And you just got to really hold something there, trying to drill it in there. That's the stuff that really hurts the back, and so it turns out the way I was trying to hold my back, I was actually holding it the opposite way to what I thought I was. Just what the hell? So there's been a lot of, it was very disturbing to realise just how out of whack and out of touch I was with my own self. And yeah, it's incredibly sobering. So I felt really clouded and foggy, and then I felt this massive clearing. Whoa! And that's what you get, like a bit like punch in the face. But that physical pain and embodiment, and Jake just comes and moves me, and it's but I'm not going to dare break my thing. I'm going to do it right, but just the look on my face, and then suddenly it changed a different thing, and we couldn't do the speech in time. We just couldn't feel the belly. It just threw me right out. So this is the point of reflection. But then I pushed myself so hard. I'm just amazed. And it's late now. It's nice. Late at night now. Must be about 1 o'clock or something. I've just been out. This is 2 hours been out with the dogs for an hour before that. And I've been suffering from the heat, working in the heat recently in Brisbane. Oh. So I worked out last week. You need to go get a 5 kilogram bag of ice. Have that with you. And then have this big jug thing you can put in ice and then put water, or coconut water or other liquids, and then keep drinking that and chew on the ice. But I really preemptively made sure looking after myself, but I just didn't go and do it. I got to just get this done, get this done. So it's a discipline. I know there's a lot of discipline there, which is what I really need to rely on, because if I'm not physically so fit or strong, and I'm getting older and all this, then you really need to be with that. But man, I stop and I'm a bit dizzy. It's the opposite of a brain freeze. And you drink freezing cold water, and it's like the opposite. You can feel how hot the blood must have been. And my back is sore. I'm absolutely amazed. I didn't even eat my breakfast. I still got my breakfast here. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. I didn't even think of my breakfast. Made up there's 2 litres of porridge and superfood there. I didn't even think of it all day. And I felt sick in the stomach, purging out a lot of stuff. And all in all, it's this huge gratitude, because now I can do something about it. If you don't realise what it is that's getting in your own way with yourself. It might take a lifetime to work it out. But when you do get it, and it comes through with other people, because we're with others in life for their ability to reflect self back to self. So that's why this whole thing is such a monumental spiritual and quantum physics, human experience, transformation, self-directed process. If everybody in the world was engaging in this, the world would be healed in total world peace and completely unrecognizable manner from what it is now, within 6 months. Because with everything we do is sort of go, how do I feel about this? How am I going to do this? What is the time and space association with it? How can I make this happen? How do I make this? How do I feel before I come into this interaction? And then you gain all this other stuff. So I've not really spoken about the gain of it, but I'm not going to go into that now. But the gain is then in real time, like last night after training, and then today, all day, all night, it's just there, so aware. And then you push yourself through, you do what you got to do, cultivate your discipline, sacrifice yourself and achieve something else. And I did really achieve. It has been very much achievement at that place. So far, it's a big deal. I'm not going Sunday, but I went there to do a certain job today, but it's like, no, that's not going to work. That's not what's going on here. I'm doing this, and then I just started doing something, and I realized, as I said, it was like, this is what you got to do. And I just did that. And I did all these other things. And so everything that I touched, I fixed. Or I cleaned up, tied up, made it better. Don't need to do it again. Don't need to touch it again. And so did a lot of stuff on the surface. So then by the end of the day, like I've been working a few days there, and it all started to come together. So I was supposed to go down the coast tomorrow, but I have to go back to this place and get it to that standard. And just as I was leaving, it's like, wow, you can really feel it now. This is why I had to do all of the stuff the way I did it, and because now you can feel it. It's coming together. And so everyone that comes in here will feel it. Every customer that comes here will feel it. You'll feel it. All the stuff that you could engage with. Well, you come over to my place and you can deal with the stuff that I got to point. I was always able to engage with, and suddenly I couldn't engage with anymore. I got overwhelmed with all this other stuff. There's this residual energy. But I can deal with your stuff. So you come over to my place and you deal with my stuff. That's not going to happen, but that's the kind of thing, you sit with your own mess. You can't do your own dishes for 3 weeks, but you go to your friend's place and then their dishes are piled up and you just do the dishes in 5 minutes, they're done. It's always easier with someone else. But you do this exercise. There's 4 of us in the training, and we have to link up so we're touching each other just as we make a performance shape, a theatrical shape, and then the music changes, then that's the shape we keep. We have to be touching each other, and then we have to move forward as one. So then John says, just as we start thinking, right, everyone's eyes shut except Jimmy. So then I got to steer him. I've got to control them. I've got to keep them together, not let them go too close, not too far, not too fast, not too slow. I'm the only one with my eyes open. I'm controlling 3 other people. But you can't be holding them. You've got to maintain a physical contact with, and you're feeling everything with them, and they're feeling everything there. So then, as that's like a huge thing. Every manager should be doing something like that. Because then they go to work and they go, wow. How am I directing this? How am I directing that? How am I directing this? What effect am I having here? What if I don't have enough control here? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? So anyway, I think that's enough. I was like, wanted to put something out today. I was busy and I was like exhausted. But I really wanted to get something out because it's monumental. Now I've spoken for 2 hours and 10 minutes, so I didn't think I had more than 5 minutes to say. But I wanted to get something out of this day. I don't care if no one watches this, because I'm basically doing this for myself and for my children and for the rest of the world if they want it, if they care. But for me, I don't have a thing of, my children might watch it, my daughter might end up watching this at some point, my son might. It's there for him. But otherwise I'm doing it for me, so I'll go back and I'll look at this and I'll watch this, I'll listen to myself and I'll look at myself. And I'm just doing it to honour the training, the practice that's been given to me for free by his absolute master genius and his absolute master genius mystic wife. I don't know who this guy Suzuki is and all this kind of, there's a few bits and pieces, but there's not really much anything just going, what is this? So then I thought I'll make something where I go about all this stuff and explain what it is, and you probably don't have a clue what it is. How could you? You actually couldn't, and that's what the whole thing is. It's a paradox. But the paradox that transforms in your life, the next day and next week and all that kind of stuff. I'm so happy to find that there is actually something in life that you can get this. I'll leave it there. Much love.